It's what we do on Tuesday nights. It's what we do on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and what you should be doing each and every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Just how Jason has been able to stay faithful and here each and every week for now 53 consecutive weeks. And so while Jason Parker, who joins us each and every week, is faithful for 53 consecutive weeks, I was looking forward to this particular show because this is the 1 year anniversary +1, Jason.
We're in year 2. And we left Logan and James. Apparently we left them in year 1. We forgot to get them their tickets over here to year 2. So I don't know. Maybe hopefully we'll get them next week. Kyle Pickett's already first. We're less than a minute in, and Kyle Pickett is already in.
Or maybe we'll just continue with year 2, and we'll march on with just Jason and myself. This is good enough right here. We can do it.
Yeah, we need them. We need help. James, Logan, come back. We need you.
Kyle Pickett has not needed any help posting the first 5 comments on the live chat, so everybody please join him. We've got 18 quickly on the line within the first 90 seconds. Talking Florida State football here each and every week. Leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics, and Jason and I will dive in.
How are you doing this week, Mark Rogers?
I'm doing pretty well. I just got back in town late tonight, overnight last night. I was out of town since Thursday, and getting myself reacclimated to life here in beautiful Connecticut, which it is. I am not being sarcastic on this given day. 82 and not a cloud in the sky. It's tremendous outside right now.
It hasn't stopped raining here in South Florida since Sunday afternoon. So if you want to send some of that down here, that'd be great.
Usually it needs to come the other way. So I think you guys can, as long as you can bear up over the next few days. Yeah, I'm sure it will be back to being paradise soon.
We know what we're getting into. It's rainy season down here. So you know what else is doing? It's raining recruits. See, that was good. That was a good one.
That was a tremendous segue. Expertly done. Bryson Estes would be one of those raindrops, I guess, as an offensive lineman, a mighty big one out of Georgia.
If FSU wants to be successful in turning around their offensive line, they need to make it rain top offensive line recruits. He's a 3-star recruit, from McDonough, Georgia. He's a big guy, 6'3", 291. Right now he's listed as 3-star. That could go up before signing day and whatnot. But he listed Florida State in his top 5. What got me, and we've talked about this with some of the other recruits, some of the defensive back recruits who've committed to FSU in the past couple of weeks, is committing to an FSU team over programs that have been more successful recently. And Bryson Estes has put Florida State with, just looking at his list real quick, Nebraska, Missouri, Arizona State, and Penn State. So that's serious bowl teams, teams that have had serious winning records. Obviously, Arizona State beat Florida State in the Sun Bowl this past season. But it's good to see that FSU is still being able to go out and get the recruits. And I think we've talked about that. That's showing what Mike Norvell's doing. That's showing what the assistant coaches are doing, going out and getting these top recruits to at least. And once again, it's still early. He could commit to any one of those other schools. He could commit to another school that comes in here. But the fact that FSU is even in the conversation for these top recruits, even getting commitments from some recruits, from some 3-4-star recruits, is very impressive at this point. And you have to look at it in a positive way if you're a Seminole.
Estes listed right now as the 8th rated center in the country, according to the 247 Sports Composite. 41st rated player in Georgia, out of McDonough, Georgia, Eagles Landing High School. Of course, with the offensive line position and transitioning from high school to college, a center could become anything, most likely a guard if there's going to be any transition there in a particular position.
Yeah, 6'3", 291 is a good starting size right now. Obviously, probably, good height, like you said, to probably stay center guard, probably stay in that interior part of that line there. To probably want to get them up to maybe about 300, 305, somewhere around that range, gain about, 10, 15 pounds of muscle. So there's room to work with if he does decide to come to Tallahassee. McDonough's not that far, it's just down the road.
Just down the road from McDonough, Georgia. I have no idea where that is.
I've never been to McDonough, Georgia in my life, but I'm going to assume since Georgia's right there, it's right down the road.
Okay. We'll do a little Google map search here when we get a chance.
I passed the geography course in college, so I think Georgia's right there.
Well, yeah, but it's a large state.
It's really Atlanta and then the rest of the state.
It could be in the border of Tennessee, for all we know.
Well, then why don't you Google it?
I will do that at some point. I don't think we want to hold up the show for me to Google McDonough, Georgia.
You can ask me the next question, take me full screen, then you'll Google, and then we'll come back to you.
I do that on a regular basis, so I don't think I need any instructions to continue on.
We got this, Mark Rogers. You and me.
What we also have this time of year, typically under normal conditions, are a lot of recruiting visits around the last few weeks of the semester, early to mid-May, something in that range. And this would be the culmination of tons of recruiting activity and official visits. Obviously, that's been taken out of the mix at this point, but still a lot of recruiting activity. Actually, roughly the last reports that I saw, double the commits nationally in the Power Five than what we typically get at this point. Which is another topic. But in regards to who Florida State's got on the radar, number of people in the crystal ball predictions.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit in the past couple of weeks. They got a defensive back from the state of Texas, Hunter Washington, who had admitted he hadn't visited Florida State yet, but yet he's still committed to Florida State. How that's the new dynamic. That's our new normal right now in our current system. There's really four guys that FSU needs to really get, that they're in the conversation with possibly getting, and that if they can get these guys, they will jump up in their class. Two of them are on the defense in the secondary. One is a guy by the name of Corey Collier. He's a 6'2", 170-pound four-star safety from down here in Miami Palmetto. He's got FSU. He's got offers from about 40 schools right now, but basically it's Florida State, Florida, Clemson, Georgia, and LSU are his top five at this point right now. Obviously, with him being in Miami, there's always the, is he going to stay and go to the University of Miami, be a Hurricane? Does he go to Florida? Does he go to, Clemson, obviously, or LSU, the defending champs? But if Florida State can come down, that's what I've talked to previously. That's something. If Florida State can continue to get that South Florida pipeline up there, that would be amazing. Now, there's another guy from Tallahassee, a lot closer to the Florida State campus, Terrion Arnold. He's a four-star safety from John Paul II Catholic High School in Tallahassee. 6'2", 187, so a tall guy who could also play that safety position. But right now they're saying he's leaning towards Alabama. A lot of the crystal ball projections have him going to Alabama or FSU, being one of those two. So that would be a loss. That would be like a Rodney Harrison that James has talked about previously, who went from FSU High, Florida High, to Alabama. That would be a little bit embarrassing if you lose somebody in your own backyard, but we'll see what plays out from there. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the two guys I'm looking at, first one is Joshua Burrell. He's a three-star wide receiver from the state of South Carolina, 6'2", 208. Right now, a lot of the crystal ball projections have been going to Florida State. If that's somebody who can come into Tallahassee, that's a taller wide receiver target. There's a couple other receiver targets who are leaning towards Florida State. Burrell is the tall one. That's the guy you want. That's the kind of the Tamarian Terry type guy. James Coleman type guy who shows up 10 minutes late here, but we still love him here on James Coleman here. Big game, James.
Technical difficulties, man. Technical difficulties.
Fashionably late.
Fashionably late. That's what we go. He's on Miami Standard Time there. That's what he is done.
Facts. I'm trying to get my laptop. Working.
So Joshua Burrell is a three-star wide receiver that Florida State needs to go after, and then another guy is a three-star tight end that we're looking at there by the name of Jackson West. He's from Huntsville, Alabama. He's also leaning towards Florida State. He's a big target, 6'4", 231. He's a guy that Mike Norvell's offense can kind of play that position. He's a good pass catcher. If Florida State can land a decent amount of these four guys, these are four guys that I believe can take that class from right now, what is ranked number 41 by 24/7 Sports, and make it at the very least, a top 20 class.
So, James, we've got an offensive lineman in Bryson Estes out of Georgia who has committed, and so I've done a little legwork on this, Jason.
Oh, so he made it
official. Georgia.
No, he got us in there 5. He put us in 5.
Oh, okay. So not a commit there. Top 5 selection with Arizona State, Penn State, Nebraska, Missouri.
Right.
McDonough, Georgia, 237 miles from campus, a little bit southwest of Atlanta. 237 miles from Tallahassee.
I've never heard of
football area.
We had no idea where McDonough, Georgia was.
I mean, that's why I figured it was Atlanta. I mean, I've heard some, I guess it ain't Florida, but Georgia puts up a pretty decent brand of football. At least for linemen. I'd rather have some. I wouldn't mind some Georgia linemen. Again, but it's all great. And can't wait to have more linemen. I hope he commits, and if he commits, I'm going to give major kudos and say all those good things. But the reality is this: it's still not an impact lineman. It's not a guy who comes in and starts day one or pushes for a starting job. And FSU's problem isn't that they need development guys, or that they just need depth. The problem is they need guys who can come in and play. That's why you need the 4-star, 5-star guy. That's why FSU fans are starting to grow more and more every day, getting impatient and starting to kind of read through some of the I want to make sure I say this the right way, because I have tremendous respect for Coach Norvell. I think Coach Norvell is going to do an amazing job. I think he's playing catch up a little bit with the stuff that's going on with him. But to quote him, the standard is a standard. And right now, all you can do is judge on what you've seen. And when you read the beat, or the major, the reputables, as they like to call themselves, it reads like a bunch of BS that's spin. And we just haven't gotten a 4-star. We haven't gotten a 5-star. And it's okay to have a 3-star, but it's just not the same. It's like it's cool to get a steak from Outback, right? Nothing wrong with a steak from Outback. It's actually really good. And if you consistently, if you have a budget, that's probably where you want to consistently get your steak from. I don't get sponsored by Outback or anything, just to let people know.
Great. Now,
but to get one from, but to get a steak from Charlie's Steakhouse, to get a steak from Ruth Chris, to get a steak from Morton's, it's just a little bit different. And it tastes different. The presentation is different. You take a chick to Morton's or Charlie's, like they bring the food out there, like the fresh meat out there, that's a little bit more impressive. Again, that's just all it is right now. And it's okay to recognize the fact or the place of where you're at.
To your point, James, Dante Lucas was the highest rated offensive lineman signed by Florida State last year, 27th rated. He is a 4-star, but you look at a number of schools that we could all guess, they had multiple guys above the 27th best offensive line prospect position. And that's just in the 2019 class that I looked up.
And with all due respect,
he was a 4-star, and he came in and he played. He eventually beat out somebody, and he's still not. Don't get me wrong. He's not the second coming of Jamie Dukes or anybody else at this point. He still needs to get better, but that's a guy who came in and immediately made an impact. He was nasty. He was talking trash to vets who he didn't believe in. You want to change the culture, you got it. That's the only way to change the culture.
James, with all due respect, I'm just going to disagree with you on this one aspect. Florida State has had plenty of 4-star guys, even some 5-star guys that they brought in who, for lack of a better term, have sucked, have been horrible, have underachieved, and have left the program. To me, and once again, if Bryson Estes does come to Florida State, he's watching the film on him. He seems like that kind of guy who I think can be molded into someone. I think we need to realize we're not going to get the 5-star blue chip, the top offensive lineman in the country right now. We're going to have to get guys to work. So give me a 3-star who's willing to bust his butt and work, as opposed to the 4 or 5-star who think that as soon as they come on, they're going to be handed the starting job.
Yeah, but see, that's a culture thing and what was allowed. That goes deeper than and beyond what Willie Taggart is. You're 100% correct. The ranking method has major flaws. Don't get me wrong. But I will say there is a consistency in there with some of these guys that are good. Now, you're right. Like you're going to rise and fall to the level of expectation. Arnold, I think the kid who just transferred to Delaware State or Tennessee State, he was a 4-star, I believe. The boy who can't keep his hands off of women, whatever his name is, he was a highly ranked guy. Yes, you can go down the list of those people, but we can also go down the list of 3-stars who were bust. I was a no-star. But you got to have guys who are mean with good attitude. So it's a combination of all of that. And again, I don't care if they're 3-star. I don't mind the 3-star. I think without trying to get into extra smart stuff like one of my colleagues. I think if you sign 25 people and 15 of your guys are 3-stars, I have no problem with that. I need 10 difference makers though. And that's where my issue is. And we need difference makers at a lot of positions, but we definitely need difference makers at defensive end, which we don't have, and we don't have on the board. We need difference makers at tackle, which we don't have, and we don't really have on the board because every day a difference maker commits somewhere else. We need difference makers at linebacker. Now, what we can do in our sleep, Mark can become the head coach at Florida State, and nobody even know what his background or anything is. Hey, we are going to land a 4-star DB. We will land a 5-star DB. That's what we have done a great job of marketing, and that's why we can do it. What we have done a piss poor job of doing of marketing, and this isn't on Norvell, this goes back many coaches, is marketing how well we have had offensive line, how well offensive linemen have done in the NFL and coming out of Florida State. We don't talk about we talk about Dion, but we don't talk about Alex Barron. We don't talk about Jamie Dukes, who was the first 2-time All-American at Florida State. We don't talk about Brett Williams. We don't talk about how the 2002 offensive line had 4 guys get drafted into the NFL. We don't talk about how, actually, 5, because Alex Barron and kind of rotated back and forth on that squad. We don't talk about the Ray Willises. We don't talk about Montre Holland, who off of that 2002 team had a tremendous career as a starter for the New Orleans Saints and the Dallas Cowboys. We don't talk about our offensive line. We have Odell, who, what did they say, in the last 24 drafts, he's had somebody get drafted. Mm-hmm. So he's had 24 players in 24 drafts get drafted. So what I'm saying is, why can't we get a 5-star? Like, we have one of the 3 of the best interior D linemen in the nation at Florida State. But you mean to tell me we can't get it? What are we selling? That's what the fuck we're selling. Sorry, Mark. That's what we're selling, is that you got 3 draftable D tackles. You got Brian Burns, who's in the NFL, probably could have, if he would have been able to continue to perform and not have nagging injuries, could have been arguably a defensive rookie of the year. The problem ain't we ain't got nothing to sell. The problem is we ain't selling. If you don't get on as a project boy, it don't matter how good your product is. If you don't get out on that damn block and sell it, it don't sell itself. So I mean, that's really what we gotta go look at. So I mean, we got something. We can get the linemen, we just ain't getting them. Alex Atkins had a guy drafted from Coastal Carolina. That's what you should be selling. I go into a room right now and I say, tell me what city Coastal Carolina's in. I guarantee you can't now recruits say that. But I bet you I could show them the place that a kid got drafted from Coastal Carolina, and I could show them the place where the offensive lineman got drafted from Florida State. I can show them how it's going to be different because my ass is here. Like, that's the difference. Mike Norvell and staff, I believe, had 8 guys drafted in the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what you're selling. So it's BS to me to not hold them to the standard. That's all I'm saying.
That's the kind of insight that proves that James was a 5-star recruit. That was 5-star analysis right there. James, you had 5 stars. James, top fullback
to my mom. To my mama.
The 2002 class, you were the 5-star fullback that FSU signed.
You know, you could liken that to what we do here on my channel when I bring on guests. You know, they can't all be 5 stars, Jason. So you've identified the 5-star here. And then there we've got our 4s and our 3s and our 2s and our no stars, but there's a place for them as well. But Jason, you've identified the 5-star. Again, we've got other levels here.
I'm like a 3-star. I don't have the most talent, don't have great speed off the line, but I'm good. I'm good. I'll give you 60 minutes.
So again, if we take it a class later to the 2020 class, the highest rated Florida State offensive lineman signed last year was Demore Tate, 34th. As a 4-star. There were about 50 some. It only goes to 54-star offensive linemen. So he was one of them. But again, the other big elite teams that you would see, they're scattered all over the place with a number of guys in the top 50. And Florida State's got the one guy at number 34. So their best guy in the last recruiting class is 34th rated. The one before that's 27th rated. And I think to James' point, is you need difference makers. You need difference makers, and your difference maker might be a 2-star, but usually it's not a 2-star. So the numbers are going to usually play out to what they're supposed to be.
And I agree with James 100% that we do need those difference makers. James is 100% right on that. I guess my issue is I grew up watching Florida State during the Dynasty era. I went to Florida State. James and I graduated the same year. We both were at Florida State at the same exact time. When, with all due respect, James, I'm going to say it kind of stepped back a little bit as far as from the Dynasty era. I mean, we still won the ACC 3 times out of the 4 years, but it kind of took a step back. We weren't, the top 10 team. We weren't top 5 team. We weren't winning national titles. So it's kind of like you had guys who came in there who there were some guys that just expected, I'm going to come to Florida State. I'm going to win 10 games. I'm going to play in the Orange Bowl, play for a national title just like normal, just because that's what Florida State has done in the past. That's why I feel like, especially after the 2013 season, after winning the national title, after the 29 games in a row, that's the question that I have is, do these guys want to work? Do they want to put in that same work ethic that James has talked about before, that we've talked about here before? Or are they just guys who are coming to Tallahassee thinking I'm just going to get in, do my 3 years and get to the NFL? That's not the guys that I want. I want guys who are going to come in here and work. And if it's a 3-star or 2-star, give me that over an entitled 4-star or 5-star.
I don't even believe that we have guys that want to do 3 years and go to the NFL. Mm-hmm. Can't believe. I personally can't believe that, because one thing that I've done, and sometimes you smell yourself a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. When you that's an old term, Southern term. I don't know if they use that up there, Mark, but
I don't think Mark 6 years in Mississippi, James. So I got myself a taste.
I don't think Mark's heard that.
Or we look back. I have gold. I look at my life through gold-colored lenses, but some people look through rose-colored lenses. And you're sitting back and you're like, sometimes old heads talk way too much. Like, I was this, I was that. Then the film tells you something different. Now, I was a lot of the things that I claimed in film. But when I'm watching it, I'm going back and watching it, and I'm watching it with the years of knowledge that I've got from breaking down film and having an NFL eye and some of the other things. I look at it as we had some really bad offensive play calls when I was in Florida State. Things that did not make any sense. We all wanted to go to the NFL. So what we figured out? You don't have to be a brain surgeon. You got to be Monroe. But what you figure out is, I got a better opportunity to go to the NFL if I do what these guys tell me and I make it work. Bobby, I joked with the West Virginia thing, but Bobby put the headset on. Bobby got me laid out and knocked out numerous times because he called the play wrong. And it doesn't matter. I knew I couldn't go in there and be like, "Oh, I don't believe in the play. I'm not going to do it." No, hell no. I got to go in. It's two things that can happen. I can not do it and pout and get laid out, or I can go 100% and try to lay the person out on the other side of me. And I got 50-50 chance. For me, it was higher than 50-50. But the reality is, if I go in there and I do what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to perform well. If I perform well, I'm going to get an opportunity to play in the NFL, because they'll look at I'm going to tell you this, and this is NFL scouts are brutally honest. They will look at the film and tell you that it was a stupid play. They'll acknowledge that. But what did you do? What was your part in making that play well? That's why I was so not upset. I was disappointed in a young man, Keith Gavin, in the interview that he did. Because yes, I will agree. The play calling could have been exponentially better. But you drop passes. You didn't practice dropping passes. I guarantee that. I don't care how bad of a coach, how unorganized, how inept anybody wants to make Willie Taggart. I promise you, they did not do a fumble the ball drill. They did not do a let's go miss tackles drill. Let's have two people in position to scoop up a fumble and decide to let the other team pick it up drill. I promise it wasn't I'm going to overthrow a wide receiver drill. I promise there was a lot of drills they probably did that didn't make sense, but I can promise you it wasn't one of those. And now I believe Norvell is a much better organized guy and is going to demand more out of them, but I don't even believe we had that. What I believe happened was we recruited a bunch of guys that the logo recruited because with the success that Jimbo had. Then I believe that Taggart was a great guy who came in and he has some quotes. He has some things that are very, very good that make you want to play for him. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not lie about that. So you come in and you hear this guy telling you this stuff. You hear this guy say that I'm going to be the first African American coach to win a national championship, and I'm an African American male or dad, and I hear that, I'm like, hell yeah, I want to be a part of that. Then he stunk it up. And now I got, another guy coming in. But I want guys who want to be a part of building something great, like you're saying, Jason. But it doesn't matter if you're 5-star, 3-star, 2-star. But right now, all we have, I can look at the film and tell that this guy is better than that guy. And if his ranking is a 4-star, 5-star, then I want a 4 or 5-star. Like, again, it goes back to when I'm broke and all I can eat is tuna, I'm going to eat tuna. And I'm going to eat tuna, and I'm going to eat tuna with a smile. The problem is we ain't broke. We don't have to eat no damn tuna. We don't have to eat no ramen. We can go out there and eat what we want. We just have to believe they're the big dog. Alabama ain't always been. Alabama was 7-6 Saban's first year. Mm-hmm. Saban sold the hell out of it though. Tennessee right now with Jeremy Pruitt. Jeremy Pruitt is one game over 500 as a head coach. But you know what he hasn't had a problem getting? Offensive lineman. Hell, he had 3 5-star left tackles. He getting all of them. Matter of fact, Jeremy, I'm gonna tell you, I'm dropping bags. I don't know if he's dropping bags or just snitching. I hope he is. But the bottom line is he can go in the living room, get whatever offensive line he wants. Florida, even before that, has never had a problem. When they're 4-8, they get guys. We can get guys. It's just we got to get them. We got to get the guys who want to change the program. But I am with you in that manner, Jason.
But was Florida getting guys because they thought that they were going to help turn around Florida, or were they getting because of the name? Were they getting because they could say, I could play for the University of Florida and get to the NFL? That's my question. Because if it's guys who are sitting there, I'm not going to blow up names right now, but there's a couple guys that for a fact did not play up to their stars during your time at Florida State. There's guys who have not played up to their stars during their time here in Tallahassee. I agree with you 100%. I want guys who are going to come in and play up to their stars, but I also want guys who can overplay their stars. I want a 3-star who's going to play like a 4-star. I want that.
Right. So like a Tamarind Terry. Like Tamarind Terry is a guy who's outplayed his standard. And Marvin Wilson is a guy who's right where he at. Could he have played better? Probably. But he's right where he's at. But I need whatever it takes. That's my point. And I just say you can't say you want to go to the NFL if you don't have the mannerisms, you don't do what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Everybody's talking about the weight room. Here's the thing about a strength and conditioning coach. I can't force you to lift the weight. I can't force you to not eat Chick-fil-A every meal. I can't force you to eat right or do right. You got to do that on your own. A guy who a lot of Florida State fans don't really like, but they don't know why they don't. They don't like him because some people who don't know a damn thing about strength and conditioning have told them that they don't like him. I'm here to tell you, Coach O is not a bad strength and conditioning coach. He wasn't a good motivator for our team. It did not work. He told me a story about Brian Burns. Brian Burns, 220 his entire career almost at Florida State until his senior year. NFL scout comes in, tells him that, tells Coach O, we're not even going to give him a look if he's not close to 250. Coach O goes and shares this to him. You know what Brian Burns 220 on a Monday when he told him that. Brian Burns 238 on a Friday. It wasn't a matter of if he couldn't gain weight. It was a matter of if he didn't do what it was necessary to gain weight. That's the problem. That's what you got to have guys who really have a plan and really have a focus. It's all cool for Twitter to say, I want to buy my mama a house. It's different when you actually got to go out there and put in the work to buy your mama a house. It's different. And dude, it's just, and you got to have some stone cold killers. We talked about our time there. Ernie Sims, Lawrence Timmons, Buster Davis, Geno Hayes. Did I say Lawrence Timmons? Kendall Pope, Michael Boulware. I'm trying to think of some other guys. But just those guys alone, headhunters. Like killers. If you don't go out there and try to kill them, you know what they're going to do to you in practice? They're going to kill you. Do we have that competition? Do we have the iron sharpens iron? Again, a bunch of guys who have a plan to want to go to the NFL, but also understand all of the things that come with it, being a Seminole, carrying themselves as Seminoles. And what we did in the last 2 coaching staffs is, I won't say the doors weren't open because that would be a lie. I've never had a problem going to Florida State and getting what I need. But I will say too many people believe that the doors weren't open. And what happens is that's a communication thing. So if people don't believe that, so coming around, actually, I just saw somebody was a Cheryl J with that's a Buckeye helmet. What I see about Ohio State, they guys come back. There is no lack of communication. They know. They reach out. Guys come back, talk to the team all the time. And not just the guys who we've recently heard of who were first round picks or this, because the team was built with a bunch of other guys. But these young guys are say they're hungry. They say they want to be, they say they haven't handled adversity well. They say they want to grind. We shall see. But again, I know you got to get it done. It's not about, Norvell said that they'll learn how to lead through him. You just got to get it done, baby. That's all that matters.
So this portion of the conversation started out with offensive line. So I'd like to put a bow on that portion of it, because if you look at the 2013 team, they were obviously great across the board, almost every position. 2014, probably a bit overrated at 14-0, but a legit top 5 to 10 team in the country. Then it started to slide after that. 2015, they were good. 2016, they were still really good enough to win an Orange Bowl. But even in 2016, the offensive line was the biggest issue on the team. DeAndre Francois got killed. So somewhere in the 2014-15 range, the offensive line started to deteriorate. So there had to be two factors involved there. One would have to be that even though the recruiting, they were still bringing in fairly good players, 4 and 5 stars. Maybe the recruiting fell off at that position. That's what I'm understanding from what I can recall from both of you and Logan, but also the development. So does that go to the offensive line coach not bringing in quite the level of talent, but then also not developing it?
I would love to blame Jimbo Fisher for a lot of the problems, and I think I have for a decent amount of the last year here with MarkRogersTV, the Western College Football. But I personally think I think Mark hit the nail on the head. To me, it's got to go more towards the coaching staff there, as far as Rick Trickett, as far as Greg Frey, Randy Clements. These are the guys who it's their job to get that offensive line. They're the ones who are with them the entire time, working with them, focus on them, and they're the ones who aren't getting the job done. You know, and we've talked about this before. We've used the example when we've made fun. You know, I made fun of the University of Miami talking about how they're going to Miami a game. They're going to lose a game they shouldn't lose, and they're going to Miami a game. Florida State did that. And I could see it start to happen, to me personally, with that Georgia Tech game in 2015. That Georgia Tech game in 2015 was, and I'm going to use James as go back to our time. James, you remember that Maryland game in 2004 that we lost, that we shouldn't have lost to Maryland? Remember that Louisville game in 2002 we lost that we shouldn't have lost to Louisville? Hell, remember that Miami game in 2002 where we were up by 13 points late in the fourth quarter and we probably should have beat them? Right, those are games that we should have won, that we had no business losing, and we lost. To me, it was that Georgia Tech game, losing to a bad Georgia Tech game in 2015 on a fluke play at the end, but the fact is we should have never been in that position. The offensive line played atrocious in that game. You finally saw the cracks start to come, and the embarrassment of that game exposed that line. And it just brought them from, hey, we're getting the job done, we're barely getting the job done, to just that downhill swallow. And then you see what happened in 2016, how DeAndre Francois was running for his life and how he barely survived. How I'm surprised he was able to make it through that entire season. You saw the joke of 2017 and then the last 2 seasons under both Greg Frey and Randy Clements. So you start to see it. You start to see that whole them playing down to that level. And you can hide behind Jameis Winston at quarterback. You can hide behind Kelvin Benjamin, Devontae Freeman, Carlos Williams, that monster defense of 2013 and 2014. But once you lose to a bad Georgia Tech game, it wasn't like losing to Clemson. It wasn't like losing to Florida or Miami. It was losing to an eventual 3-9 Georgia Tech team. That's what exposed it, and that's where you started to see the cracks, was at that point right there.
I'll actually take it 1 year before that. And again, it comes down to, it's not just Jimbo's fault, because you can't keep blaming because eventually there's been 3 years since Jimbo. So you've got to be able to recruit people in that. But after the 2014 season, I believe we brought in 2014 class. we brought in 7 linemen, I believe, including JUCO. After that, we brought in 1, and then so on and so on. Just not enough. That's just bottom line. Is it's not enough. Now, just like what happened in 2002 to destroy the dynasty, or not necessarily when I was there, but it brought about is Florida State has always been at its best when there is a red shirt, at least a red shirt sophomore outside of Jameis. But there were tons of veterans around Jameis and a defense that was just completely dirty. And Jameis was a phenom. But when you look at it, it's all marked by great quarterback play. Just looking at Jimbo did not have a quarterback in place in that 2015 season. You had Sam McGuire, JJ Constantino, and Evan Golson, who came in. And just none of them were up to par. So that's where you saw that deterioration. Then you bring in a redshirt freshman the next year in 2016 that has to play. Then that guy gets hurt. In 2017, you have to bring in the true freshman. Then that guy comes back, and he's not fully recovered. And the problem is that which makes the offense. I'll get to the offensive line. Is when you have a system that is centered around excellent quarterback play and not team offense, you put yourself in a really, really bad position unless you are a true offensive guru. Not knocking anything about Jimbo, but Jimbo, let's be honest, outside of 13 and 14, the offense has been okay. When you go back and look at his LSU offenses, okay. When he was the offensive coordinator for Bobby, all right. Much improved when he was the head coach, but still, he's not. I guarantee you, nobody's beating down his doors to hire him as an offensive mind in the NFL. They've asked him questions, but those are things. That's just the truth. But it's not about jumping on Jimbo. Now we go from a pro-style system with pro-style linemen. Big guys who are in shape to be and ready to play 65 to 85 plays. So what you do is you come in and you do a complete 180 entirely too fast with what Taggart wants to do. You want guys who are designed to play 65 to 85 plays to do 100 to 115 snaps. So a lot of weight was lost, a lot of strength was lost, just entirely too fast. Bring in a pro-style offensive lineman in Greg Fry with a pseudo-spread offensive coordinator in Walt Bell. Guys who is just you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, what do? You get rid of him after 1 year. You bring in Randy Clements. You bring in whatever that dude's name is at Arkansas. I choose to forget him right now. Now they have their third offensive line coach in 3 years, and what he teaches is not a pro style or necessarily a spread style. It's a vertical set in the running game. It's in the passing game, and then kind of aggressive in the running game. But again, a guy who has no idea of the guys that he has. He doesn't even get it. Fry and Clemens don't even get an opportunity to develop. And both resumes prove that they can do it. Hell, Fry had a #1 overall pick that he developed from a 2-star when he was at Baylor. So we know he can do it. It's just he didn't get a chance. So now we come in with Alex Atkins. But the difference between this staff, and I will say the other ones, is there is some sort of synergy and an understanding of what it is that they want to do. You find in the top 2 spots, the play caller, who is going to be Mike Norvell, and the offensive coordinator Dillingham. Dillingham's job is to make sure the team looks coordinated. And as long as the team is coordinated, the play calls will go familiar. So I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So it's a tough spot to put the linemen in. You've got guys who've lost mass, which means they probably lost strength, and then you go from that, and then you're expecting them to go play with the big dogs, and you're not putting up points. So the offensive line looks bad. But again, if you can run the ball, it takes away a lot from the quarterback. And that's one thing that this offensive line has done. No matter how bad the film looks with not Devonta Freeman, with Cam Akers, he still ran for a lot. when Devonta Freeman was here, when Dalvin Cook was here. We ran. They are confident in running the ball. Do what they're confident in. Stop forcing them to do what they're not good at. You don't want your quarterback to get hit 45 times a game. You know what you probably shouldn't do? Don't call 45 pass plays. Get it done with 25. Have a guy go 18 for 25 every night, and have a running game consistently that goes over 200 yards, and you're going to find a team that's going to win a lot of ball games.
James, I have one question for you real quick, but I want to just address the comment right here. I just actually want to thank SEC Dog, who's taking a shot at Bobby Bowden, taking a shot at us firing Willie Taggart. With the Georgia logo, if anybody would know about it taking 40 years to actually do something, it would be a guy who roots for a team that hasn't won a national title since 1980. But back to James Coleman for 1 second. So to put a bow on this, it sounds like you, and this is just where I'm coming from, it sounds more like you blame, or not blame is the wrong word, that you think that Jay Coker transferring to Alabama, which kind of left that hole at quarterback once Jameis left, that was a bigger thing than anything that happened in the offensive line. That's what I got out of that. Is that what you think, or what are you
yes.
on that?
Especially in Jimbo's system. See, Jameis took a lot of hits in 14. And that's what people don't really realize. And Jameis took a lot of risk and threw a lot of interceptions. But it was something. I was on the sidelines for the Boston College game, and Jameis threw an interception. He was throwing it toward Bobo, but it looks like he threw it right to the safety at Boston College. And they came to the side, and he told Bobo, "What are you doing? You're supposed to run a dig." He's like, "I ran a dig." He's like, "When in the history of digs has a dig ever been 8 yards? It's 15. He didn't go where he was supposed to go. So the one thing that Jameis did to be able to help is he understood where to go. See, if you know where you're going, you know what's happening, you can make a quicker decision. If you're able to make a quicker decision, that means you put the defense on their heels. If the defense is on their heels, they can't rush you as hard. So yes, you may get hit, but what happens is as the season goes, they understand that you have the ability to kill them if they don't make that play. So with what really killed DeAndre Francois not having that knee issue was everything was predicated on the zone read. I made jokes all the time. If you see me on Twitter, I said my pullout game is immaculate. I only got 3 kids, and I've only shot at the club 3 times. So that's what happens. What happened with DeAndre Francois is he never pulled out. He got caught. He never read the end and kept crashing. Damn near killed Cam Akers. But you pull out, now what does that end have to do? He has to respect the quarterback run. But if you don't have to ever respect the quarterback run, it completely destroys your running game because the entire running game was built around that. And your play action game is built around that. So again, inadequate quarterback play, quarterbacks who don't. And then the other side of it is with quick slants, you got to understand the defense can't be right because they have rules. So you have to look at the rules they have. And it's always numbers. Josh Rosen down there, he's down there in Miami still, right? He actually called it.
He's on the Dolphins.
I feel bad because he's getting jerked around, but he said the most important insight of football. And anybody who wants to understand football, here it is. It's called the MF rule. And they were like, "What's the MF rule?" I'm going to go where there's less MFers. So no matter what you do, that's why the game has 11 men. It's an odd number. You can always create numbers, whether it's through motion, whether it's through flooding the zone. No matter what it is, you can create running it. I don't give a damn if they put all 11 people in the box. You can make it to where you have the numbers to be able to run where you want, whether it's a misdirection, any of those things. But the key is you have to understand what the defense is trying to do to you, and you have to know how to respond. It's like boxing, punch, counter punch. And that's what makes it frustrating when you're watching football or you're discussing football with people who have no knowledge of football outside of Madden. It's not about mashing buttons. It's about looking at what happens and what they're trying to do to you and attacking it. And when you don't have a quarterback that can do that, then you should not be throwing the ball 45 times a game. You should be doing what strengthens the guys.
Mark, MF means more fellas. That's what he meant. So
Yes.
More fellas, of course.
That too.
Well
That
done.
too.
Thank you for
That too.
interpreting. I was going in another direction, but that's just where my mind tends to go. That it would mean something a little harsher than that. But thanks for clarifying there.
I also had a great transition, and then James started talking about his pullout game, and that completely ruined the transition. so we're just going to tell you right now to make sure you hit the like button. I know Logan's not here; he's having dinner with his family because I guess he just discovered that we do this every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. So, but he's having dinner with his family. I hope I get a leftover plate. I hope James gets a plate.
What's the thing called? Croquettes. I got that.
There you go. See,
supposed to be eating right now.
A little croquette action, a little pasta lucha. There we go. See, James knows his Cuban food down here. It's delicious. Make sure you hit the like button. Mark needs likes. That's the best.
Need some likes. It makes me feel better. It makes me feel good about myself. My self-esteem is pretty frail, folks. So hit the like button.
Yeah, just read your Twitter account. It's real frail. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we talk Florida State football here each and every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And hit the like button, share the videos, and join these guys on Twitter. So we got James, we got Jason. Jason, I'll start with you in regards to what you got going on these days.
Well, you're currently seeing my work environment here. We're still working from home down in South Florida. We got probably about another couple of weeks of doing that. But honestly, we're figuring out what's our next step here. Obviously, we're worried about the coronavirus, but Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, says we are going to have the NFL continuing. Dr. Julio Frank, who's the president of the University of Miami, who's a renowned medical expert, says he thinks football is going to happen this season, but he doesn't think there's going to be fans. The administration at the University of Michigan, Mark's favorite school, they're saying that if there's no students in the school, there's not going to be football. So I think that's a question where we're still in a wait and see mode, figuring out what's going to go on. I think if we're FSU, it's getting down to the point where decisions have to be made pretty soon. I think we're going to find out in less than a month if we're going to have football. I think we will have football, but I think they're either going to have to reduce the number of fans inside the stadium. Iowa State from the Big 12, they did a study and they released how they would do it, where they would only have half capacity. Of a 61,000 seat stadium, they would only fill it up to 30,000. So it's going to be the thing. Does Florida State limit the seating capacity? I'm not one of those who wants to see the Florida State play in an empty stadium without the Marching Chiefs, without 60,000, 70,000 fans doing the tomahawk chop. But you got to be safe. Safety comes first on this one. So I think we're still in a wait and see mode.
I think that they don't give a damn about safety, and it's all about the bottom line. And a lot of this is posturing. I mean, and this is no disrespect to our governor, and I think he does a lot of good things. But you've got him coming out, giving some pomp and circumstance on whatever it is, and selling what we call selling out, and saying that we have things going down when he's told people not to report. And all the indications are that we have numbers that are spiking. Right, wrong, or indifferent, however you feel about it, it's going to happen because money makes the world go round. Every Friday they have a meeting with all the university presidents, the SEC, pretty much every president in the state of Florida is on board with opening and playing football. So that's going to happen. When they go back and vote in their respective conferences, they're going to vote to have football. They're not going to break rank. What you will see, though, there are 3 ACC teams, and I believe Virginia came out and spoke about how they feel that don't want to that if they can cancel fall sports, they'll cancel fall sports. The SEC, I believe, there's only one school, and they're going to, and basically what we'll see majority of the ACC do is if the SEC playing football, the ACC is going to play football. If Michigan decides that they don't want to open up their campus, God bless. But I guarantee you, Ohio State, probably hell, even Michigan State. Bottom line is there are going to be a lot of teams in the Big Ten that will play football. And you may see conferences that normally have 16 people have maybe 12 to 13 teams, which we've been in those places before. So it's nothing that's really relatively new. All you'll do is that they'll schedule home and homes with the guys who are on the other side. So that they don't normally play. So you'll see Florida State play North Carolina. You'll see Florida State play Georgia Tech if for whatever reason, say Virginia does not want to do it. So I believe football we play now, the capacity level. I mean, I've heard from 50% to let it ride. But I do believe what they'll do is they'll have a certain amount of not booster allotment, season ticket holder allotments, and probably I think I saw somewhere where they're going to have 32,000 season tickets and then 8,000 for general admission or students.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's going to be. Then I do know that the state of Florida wants to experiment with having students come back in limited capacities in the summer to kind of get an idea of what they need to do.
I think it's going to be, and I hate to use this as an example, but it's the wait and see mode. Like we opened up down here in South Florida, in Broward County, and Miami-Dade County, and everyone thought, oh, we're going to open up 50% capacity. All these restaurants are going to be open. Everything's going to be open here. And there's still a lot of places that aren't open. There's still, you go to the mall right near here in Pembroke Pines, there's still a lot of stores that aren't open yet because a lot of people are still in that mindset of, we're still not secure. We're still not feel safe. And we've talked about this before with the University of Florida and Florida State being in the two smallest towns of the state universities. It would be a death sentence if they said no fans, no boosters, no one can come to the game. It's literally just going to be the teams on the field and that's it. That would be a death sentence financially to both schools. So they're going to have to do something. The question is, I hate to say this without sounding like a raging on one side of the political spectrum, but you've got the people who don't give a damn, and those are the people who usually end up getting sick. That's just a fact. Those are the people who say, oh, I can risk it, it's not going to affect me, blah, 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 and then the ones who end up dying of this. Not just of this, but of anything. That's what happens here.
Do we know that that's a fact? Has everyone been surveyed that's gotten sick to say, did you give a damn about this? Did you walk outside without a mask? I doubt that we've got those statistics, Jason. You are making a reach there that makes sense. Your reach makes sense, but it is a reach. We don't have statistics to know who got sick and how preventative they were against getting sick. We don't know that.
100% agree with you, but you know that that's a fact. That it's the same people.
I don't know that it's a fact. I know that it makes sense, but we don't know that it's a fact.
Okay, so what I said made sense. So we're going. But it does have. You see,
there's reason to believe that should be true.
I'm not just talking about one side of the spectrum. I'm talking about both sides of the spectrum. Media outlets on both sides of the spectrum point out these stories where you've got these people who are saying, oh, it's not going to be me, it's not going to be me. If it happens, I'm not worried about it. And then they get sick. Then they are hospitalized for a while, or in some cases, they do end up dying. And I'm not just talking about for coronavirus. I'm talking about for any kind of disease, any kind of illness. That has happened. That is what has happened over the course of time. So the question is, are they going to want to risk 80,000 people in Doak Campbell Stadium, 95,000 people, is it 90 or 95, whatever the capacity is of the Swamp, 60,000 people down here at Hard Rock Stadium for a Canes game? That's the question. Is it really worth the risk? Or do you say, hey, using Doak Campbell as an example, our stadium seats 80,000, let's cap it at 40,000, separate people, do it like that, and do it safely like that. Is the safety more important right now than money? And to me, 40,000 people spending money is more important than no people spending money. So I feel like there's got to be a median somewhere.
Going back to the thing, July I know is when the SEC will vote on if they're going to have games, and then we'll know what the ACC does to follow suit. There's a lot of smart people who are trying to figure it out in the state of Florida. Heck, the Florida A&M is one of the schools that's on that president board, and their president is a scientist in this type of based upon this kind of stuff. So they're leaning on him and asking his opinion. But I mean, I think it's just a matter of. I mean, it's really a matter of trying to collect money, and the thing is that we have to play heavy catch up. I joke with people all the time. I mean, we're doing pretty well in the fifth quarter, and it's growing. And I do really well with the radio with Sports Den, but 2/3 of my income is through running speed camps and doing events. And actually, I guess I could say I don't know about tailgates right now because that's completely up in the air right now. So we don't. So I mean, if anybody wants to, I mean, I don't like not making money, but the one thing is I don't want to die. I got 2 boys that don't want to see me nose, and I'm also I'm a diabetic, immune compromised. I have a 90-year-old woman that I take care of, immune compromised. I have a 19-month-old. And I have a 7-year-old. He'll be 7 in 2 weeks. So I mean, my number one priority is to make sure that, and then I also have a daughter who's set to be 18 in the summer, who's going to go off to college, and I want to make sure that they're going into situations that are going to be well for them. It's the same. I can always make more money, but I can't always live. So if I gotta overcorrect, then that's fine. But I also understand that I'm blessed to be in the position that I am right now. And if I were in the position that I grew up in, my mother would probably have to work in order to not get us evicted and things like that. So money makes the world go around, unfortunately. And all I can say is that, and knowing that makes me believe that we will have a fully functioning football season.
I think we will have fully functional, and we talked about this. If the Big Ten doesn't play, there's 4 ACC teams that play Big Ten teams. Boston College plays Purdue, Miami plays at Michigan State, Syracuse plays at Rutgers, and Virginia Tech hosts Penn State. And all those schedules, they could work around to where if the ACC wanted to do it, they could have, because Syracuse and Virginia Tech, they played those Big Ten teams on the same weekend, so they could end up playing each other, and like how North Carolina and Wake Forest played a non-conference game between each other. Miami and Boston College, those schedules, they're around the same time, so they could move some stuff around. So the ACC could make it work if they wanted to. It's a question of how lenient do they want to be? How much do they want to move some things around to make it happen?
I mean, the other side of it too is I don't know what every state does. Like, I don't know what Ohio's doing. I don't know about New York. All I know about is the state of Florida because I'm here and I happen to have friends who work in places. I do know one thing that was being tossed around well early into this is if, let's say, the ACC and the SEC decided that they didn't want to do anything. Like, they didn't want to make a decision. They said, we're as a conference, we're going to shut down. There'll be a Florida Cup. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's that thought.
Going back to the stadium situation, we know right now, regardless of how much better this gets, the safest route is to have nobody in the stadium. That's obvious. Now, to balance that out with the money that James talks about ruling the world, and we know that there are going to be people pushing for that at high levels, that it would seem to me, and I'm no expert on what the ramifications could be, that there need to be 2 basic guidelines put in place if we do have fans. One would be that we don't have a packed house. We don't have 80,000 people in an 80,000 seat stadium, that we have 15 or 25 or something like that to where we can maintain spacing. Now, it's going to be up to those individuals to be responsible and maintain the spacing, and that's almost impossible to police. And number 2 would be the distribution of how many people you allow in the stadium at a particular time, meaning you don't let everybody flood the gates at the same time. You give people you work out some kind of system where 4 hours before the game, you let in 2,000 people. And then, 20 minutes later, you let in a number of people and you separate them in some ways, and you build lanes. You do all the things that you need to do to separate people that generally aren't going to give a damn, because these are most likely going to be the people that are the least concerned about their safety, and others are going to be the people that show up for these games. So
right. And I think
you're going to have to force them to do it. I flew over the weekend, and I was trying to figure out so I went to Houston on Thursday, and I was in the Hartford, Chicago, and Houston airports. And then on the way back, I was in Houston, Dallas, and Hartford. On the way down, you would have thought, okay, people are taking this seriously. 90% of the people in all 3 airports had masks on. I have no idea what changed in 4 to 5 days, because when I flew back Monday night, it seemed like until they had to put them on the plane, I'd say 25 or 30% of the people in the same airports had their masks on.
And we're all members of the media. All 3 of us are members of the media, so we can have that access to cover Florida State, to possibly get into a football game if need be. We can, use the press card or whatnot. But there's a lot of fans out there who using James as an example, my father turns 71 in a couple weeks, and he's dealing with medical stuff. He's going through his medical issues right now. If the option for me is Florida State allowing fans in or my father living, I'm going to choose option B. That's just a fact. And that's how I feel. And if the options are me not being able to go to those games and be a fan and do the chop, but my father lives another 10 years because of it, and he's able to get the medical care he needs because he's not having to deal with this crap, then it's a no-brainer. But the problem is you have idiots, black, white, Hispanic, Democrat, Republican, Jewish, Catholic, whatever. You have idiots on the entire spectrum who aren't taking it seriously. And that's the biggest problem. You have the idiots who are at that lake in Missouri. You have idiots who are at the ocean here in Florida. You have idiots all over the place, in Texas, in Connecticut, in New York, everywhere, who are doing idiotic things who aren't taking it seriously. And until we have it where everyone's taking it seriously, you're going to have these problems, and we're going to continue to have these conversations.
Right. I think what you said, though, Mark, some of that is going to be Miami kind of not the University of Miami. The Dolphins kind of said that that's the route that they were going to probably end up taking, limiting crowd sizes and saying you have access. I think what will end up, the only way they can, one, they were already going in a certain direction where stadiums are going to actually reduce the crowd size and increase space of seats. Like I own four season tickets to FSU. That's how I support my school. I don't use them. I use the press box or I have people who are in the suite. But man, we went the Virginia Tech game. We tried to my buddy Big Marcus, who played offensive guard at FAMU, my buddy Skip, who's about as wide as I am, and I think somebody else. So it was 4 very large people that were trying to go sit. And I'm gonna tell you this much: those seats aren't designed for I'm a 2-seater. That's really what it was designed for me to be comfortable, is to have 2 seats. So really, the thought is that they can limit who sits in what section. So let's say you have 15 seats, instead of selling all 15, you realistically sell 10 of them. And you only sell them in certain groups so that people can have their space in between. Now people slide down, come closer to each other. You can't really help that part. But I think the one thing they're going to have to do, and they have these overseas, they have the thermal scanners. Every stadium is going to have to be equipped with the thermal scanners, so that you're not going to be able to know who has it, but you could do a really, really good job of getting as much information to be able to deduce who should not be in there. So if you're warm and you're hot and you're thinking that I can press through it, your ass ain't coming in there to get everybody else sick. Your rights end where mine begin. That's basic civics. That I think most people need to go learn this again, because a lot of people are talking about constitutional rights and have no idea what constitutional rights are and aren't. But I think when it's all said and done, the local bars, the establishments that are around it, the school bookstore, the apparel stores are going to all press to make sure that all of this stuff is done as safely as possible. And if universities were really smart and really wanted to be proactive, I don't know every university, but Florida State has a massive parking lot and tons of stuff. It's time to be creative. You can make money, and a lot of billionaires are made not necessarily just to owe money, but taking a modern problem and creating modern solutions. Tailgate is one of the most exciting things. I would create a tailgate zone to where you can practice proper spacing. Sell me a $20 ticket to that as opposed to a $60 ticket in the Doak Campbell Stadium, and I got good TVs, music, and I can eat. I'll probably take that with my family. There's a way to make the money. It's just we sometimes get lazy and all of that.
The problem is people don't listen. We sit there, we open the beaches in the state of Florida. We open and we say, you've got to practice social distancing. We're not going to allow. Down here in Broward County, when they opened the beaches today, they said you can't have groups of more than 10 people. You have the beaches up in Jacksonville when they opened up in your area, that literally you had crowds crowds of people who didn't practice social distancing. You have people who don't care. And unfortunately, there's a decent amount of them that wear garnet and gold and went to Florida State or root for Florida State like you and I. And that's going to be the biggest problem. It goes back to an old term, and Mark knows this from when he had his kids were little. If you give a mouse a cookie, it was a book. If you give them a tailgate, they're going to all crowd around. If you say don't, they're going to all get closer and closer. That's the biggest problem. So the question is, do you risk it? If the numbers go down, and like I said, I disagree with a lot of the things Governor DeSantis says. I disagree with almost everything President Trump says, but I'm with them on the sentiment of we want the numbers to go down. If the numbers go down, if there starts to be better, yes, absolutely, 100%, I'm willing. If the numbers spike the way that they are projected and the way that we think it's what's going to happen, I don't want to risk it. And people can call me a wuss on the board, whatever. I don't want to risk it. My health, my family's health, to me, is more important than a Florida State football game.
100% understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't believe that. I just don't believe they give a damn. Like, again, it's like I put DeSantis with the garnet and gold MFTK. I mean, excuse me, the orange and blue MFTK because he's a Gator. And basically he opened up Parks and Rec without even talking to the Parks and Rec department. So, I mean, the thing is this coming? And I've seen some of the prognostications that say October is going to be a huge spike, which unfortunately is around when a lot of people are doing their rivalries. But, you know, like I said, it is what it is. I can watch the game from the comfort of my home. Hey, there's reported that 2 players at FSU tested positive for COVID. So, I mean, the thing is that there's no 100% way to get around it. There's no 100% way to solve it. We've got there's a nice booster, Vicky. She's recovering now. She was on a ventilator. She's doing well. That so FSU fans can say that, yo, this didn't happen to me. But there's people who that write checks that this has happened to. So all we can do right now in this day and age, and which I wish I could see more done, is have more empathy and don't be selfish. And it's not about if it bothers you, but it's about does it bother the person that you're coming in contact with. And I think a lot of it's been curtailed because we have done a better job than most. But if we did 100%, we would definitely have less to worry about. So, but again, I believe that these guys are going to open this thing up.
I was in a Dollar General the other day, and of course they've got the floor marked. Well, I was in it. It's actually like 90 seconds from my house. That's why. And if I want cookies or ice cream like that, then boom, I'm going to go right there. That's why. Yeah, I don't do my regular shopping at Dollar General. But anyway, they've got the floor marked. There was a guy. I'm second in line. There's a guy who's third in line. He's got his cart up against my hip, and he's not behind the cart. He's like next to the cart. He's like next to me practically. And so I just keep looking at him. And then once I become the first person in line, I start talking to the cashier and I act, and this may not be easy for people to much of a stretch, that I was acting dumb, basically pointing out to the cashier, asking her what the lines were for just to see if he would get the point. I'm like, yeah, I was just curious, like this line right here, what is this for? And she's like, well, that means you're supposed to space. Oh, so like the person behind, they're supposed to be like spaced behind that line. And she's like, yeah, explaining it to me, and she's not getting it, that I'm talking to him, and I'm talking this loud. He's standing right there. And I've said, so do you actually have people come in here that don't do that? Like they're too stupid to get it to where they actually like walk over the line and they're not. She's like, oh yeah, we have people come in, and I just keep on with this to see if this guy will like either pick a fight with me or do something. Yeah. Just don't get.
He's a badass mother effer, that MarkRogersTV, the voice of
Oh yeah.
Starting trouble at the Dollar General.
At the Dollar General in suburban Connecticut. Starting trouble.
Oh yeah. It's always good Florida State talk with these two. We got Big Game James Coleman. Please join him on Fifth Quarter College Football, and it's on Twitter. It's Big Game James _36. I should get those up on your banners. We will do that next time. Got Jason Parker from NBC6 talking Florida State football, edition number 53. Just about as good as it gets.
We didn't get to talk about the NHL playoffs.
No, we didn't.
Next week. Okay.
Mark Rogers TV NHL opening soon on YouTube. I would love to open an NFL channel. That would be awesome too, but we can only do so much at this point. All right, James. Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you guys.
Jason, thank you so much. It's always a good time. We will see everyone back here next week, 7 o'clock Eastern time.